You are saying to me that you are guilty of your crimes. Do you understand the punishment for what you have done is, Rowan Hart? Asked the judge. Yes. I do. I am very sorry, Rowan. But according to the evidence from our witnesses, our only option left is he paused. Is to sentence you to death. Rowan sat in a chair, head in his cuffed hands, shoulders shaking. He knew now that what he had done was wrong, that this was what he deserved. He'd known that eventually this day would come. But he never thought it would happen so fast. He'd been assigned to hack into the government's satellites by the people he had been working for, and he only realized what he had done after he finished the job and knew he would pay for it. And now, he must die. The judge sighed. Then I hereby sentence you to death, Rowan Hart, for the crimes you have committed against the government. He then pounded his gavel and signaled for the security guards to come lead Rowan away to where he would be executed. Rowan stood up without a fight and let them lead him into a room. When the court doors burst open, he saw inside a tall woman with fiery red hair and determination in her eyes. She was dressed in all black and was yelling that she had evidence, that she is in possession of evidence that will prove Rowan's innocence. She looked over at Rowan and discreetly winked. Rowan was confused. He knew that he had committed those crimes. What he didn't know was who the heck this woman was. She stepped forward to speak. I am Alexandria Binsa, and I am here to prove that Rowan Hart is innocent. Rowan started, then hoped no one had seen the look of shock on his face. Rowan Hart was told to get access into the satellites, yes, but he didn't know that he was hacking into the government's satellites. Alexandria looked over at the judge. I know the names and location of the men who have done this, and the government would pay dearly to have them, and if you will uncuff Rowan, I will give them to you. The judge looked over at the two security guards and started whispering to them. Alexandria saw this. I have the names and location here on this paper. She pulled out a piece of folded paper and waved it in the air. The judge nodded to the guards and they walked over to Rowan and unlocked the handcuffs on his wrists. The judge walked over to Alexandria and held out his hand to take the piece of paper when Alexandria pulled out a gun and shot him. Before the guards could react, she shot them also. The people sitting in the room gasped and screamed. Alexandria waved Rowan to follow her and started walking towards the open doors. Rowan ran to catch up to her. I'm sure you heard my name is Alexandria, but you may call me Alex, said Alexandria as she walked towards a black Bugatti La Voiture Noire. Rowan got in without hesitation. So, Alex, how do you know me and what do you want? There was silence for a few moments as Alex drove out of the parking lot. I am working for a man named Xavier Nelson. He finds important information and sells the information he attains to the people who want it. Rowan nodded. So he wants me to work for him? Yes. Rowan thought about it for a minute. Okay. I'll do it on one condition. Are the things you do hurting people or going to cause harm to anyone or anything? No, we don't usually hurt people. The judge, and there was a criminal who escaped from prison, and his henchmen are murderers. They would have been in your sentenced to death situation in 3 days anyway. Rowan weighed his options. This woman seemed honest, and he knew how to get out of a running car. We do good work. My boss partnered with the government to help solve cases and find missing people, said Alex, interrupting Rowan's thoughts. They'll do it, but it ends up being something I don't want to be a part of. I can leave. Rowan only decided to agree to this because he wanted to atone for the mistake he'd made. Alex nodded. Alex and Rowan drove for 4 hours. Alex finally pulled up to a mountain flat and parked the car. Where are we? Asked Rowan. We are at the headquarters, replied Alex. Rowan looked around. There were no buildings in sight. All there was the mountain which they were at the base of and some trees. Alex made a weird noise that almost sounded like a bird call. A nearby pine tree rustled, and then a man jumped out of it, landing gracefully on the ground. Alex. Is that you? Asked the man as he walked closer. Yes, Archer, it's me. I need to see Head Spy Master Xavier. All right, replied Archer. Archer walked over to the mountain base and placed his hand on a flat spot. Then the ground began to shake and Rowan had to brace himself. What's happening? Yelled Rowan, staring at Alex with wide eyes. She didn't answer but just smiled. Rowan saw a piece of the mountain move and shift to the side, revealing a dark tunnel. All the loud noises stopped so they could talk normally again. Archer walked over to Rowan. "Hey, I'm Archer." "I'm Rowan, nice to meet you." Rowan replied, shaking Archer's hand. Archer smiled, then walked towards the tunnel. Rowan walked with him. Alex was already standing at the entrance to the tunnel waiting for them. "Are you ready, Rowan?" asked Alex. Rowan smiled nervously, "As ready as I'll ever be." Rowan and Archer stood where Alex was. "Are you ready for a whole new adventure?" asked Alex, smiling. Archer laughed. Rowan looked back at the open sky, for this might be the last time he sees it. "I'm ready," said Rowan, and walked into the tunnel.